Welcome to the Startup Grind.
Give a big welcome for Ashok Kartham, who's our guest tonight.
Thank you.
So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Ashok. So I was lucky, I actually got a chance to meet him right after he came to Tampa, and I heard a little bit about his story at TiE. But he's the founder and the CEO of M-ize, which is a company based here. It's a customer engagement platform that connects mobile and social users, consumers, right? Before he started M-ize in 2012, is that right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. He was the founder and the CEO of a company, 4C Solutions, that he built into one of the largest warranty back-end solutions that are out there, and sold that company in 2011 to Parametric Technology, which is now PTC, in 2011. And they're a multi-billion-dollar company traded on NASDAQ. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in computer science. He's got about 15 years as a CEO and 20 years leading development. Is that about right?
That's right.
Okay. And he also has been a charter member of TiE since the chapter started here, and was recently elected as the president of TiE Tampa. So give him a big welcome.
Thank you. But it's great to be here. And again, before I start on my story anyway, let's recognize Joy for all the effort she does to contribute to build a good ecosystem here in Tampa. I've seen her. She works hard on various events. She always is willing to talk to other entrepreneurs. So I want to again thank Joy for organizing this and putting her time into this.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask you a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your story, because you were born in India, right? In Hyderabad?
Yes, yeah. I'm born in a southern state called AP, and its state capital is Hyderabad. That's where I studied.
And then, tell us about what you did kind of growing up. When did you know you wanted to be an entrepreneur? Why did you come to America?
Sure. I think while growing up, I don't know if I thought about I'll be an entrepreneur, but in India, as you know, I think having a good education is the way to get jobs. So I was more interested in getting into some of the newer technologies. So when I graduated from high school, or they call it an intermediate college, I was very interested in going into new technologies. So our university that I went to, they were offering the computer science. Actually, we were one of the first batches of computer science graduates. So it looked very exciting. We thought this is the future of it. We have seen some computers. Again, India at the time didn't have that many computers either. So wanted to get into that. We thought that's a new technology. Learning new technology is the way to succeed in India. So once we got into computer science, and I graduated there, I worked 2 years in India. The time, again, we have seen a lot of developments in US. I know it's still before the pre-internet era. So the Windows development, and I was involved in mainframe as well as Windows development. And there was a lot of opportunities in US at the time. Either they were doing either Y2K, a lot of people were converting from mainframe systems to client server. So again, as US, obviously for a lot of people in India, also for me, it's been a dream about coming to US. This is where all the computer technology began, and I felt like this is where I could come and again make a career for myself. Okay? And again, I came to Moline, Illinois for John Deere headquarters, and we were one of the, again, first few engineers that came from India, helping them to modernize their systems. And I think that was, again, was a great opportunity. John Deere is a great company with great brand value, and they have excellent systems. So that gave me an opportunity to look at how businesses are using systems and how we can help them improve their business processes. And then in '95, around mid-90s, as we all know, the internet era began, and the web technology is being adopted for businesses. So we saw the opportunity, like a lot of entrepreneurs did at the time. This is the technology of the future. There are a lot of opportunities. I wanted to go on my own, and I think I have been thinking about that since I came to US. Again, I think it's a great thing here is you can succeed, you can start a business, even though I came from India, didn't have that many connections, always felt like it offers a lot of opportunities if you want to start a business. Okay.
So when you started 4CS, right, it's kind of unusual. In startup world, the founders have to wear a lot of different hats, right? But you not only founded the company, but you remained president, CEO, and CFO, right, of the company. How do you think that's different, and was that a good decision? Would you change it if you had it to do over again?
Sure. Again, as an entrepreneur, when you are starting out, we wanted to use a bootstrap model. Rather than raise a lot of capital, bring a big team, we were using the bootstrap model. Some of it was even building with some custom projects to do it. I have come from, as you know, from the technical background. Right? I was a developer, had a computer science background, so I haven't been a CEO or a CFO before, but wanted to be CEO for sure. I mean, as a founder, I thought being able to control the direction of the company, having your vision implemented is important. On the CFO side, again, we did add a CFO later, initially managing the financial aspects of it. I think, again, I had to go to entrepreneur course there locally to learn some of the local accounting systems and the processes so I can get started. Okay. So we started again as a very small business in an apartment in Moline with a few $1,000 investment. But we were fortunate enough to have John Deere, who I was been working with, as our first customer. They helped us to grow initially. We built a large team within the first couple of years. After that, I think, again, we added other management side. Again, my advice is, as you are starting up, depending on, again, your idea, where you are, the resources, it's okay to be able to start with multiple roles. That's what everybody does.
Sure.
And I personally believe in, especially for Tampa area, where you hear there aren't a lot of funds available, I think it's good to think about the bootstrap model. Right? What you can do, how you can get the initial business, and then be able to build on that over time. Okay?
But I mean, you actually bootstrapped the company from beginning to end. So in the end, that's much better for you as the founder of the company versus giving up equity.
It's definitely a good thing to be able to grow that. And I personally also believe customer funding is the best funding. Right? And not only for giving up the equity, being able to, I think that validates your idea. And I think it helps you get other customers. And also from the equity side, I was willing to give the equity, and especially in the internet era, I think it was easy to raise the capital. Maybe we were a little bit late to raise the capital, or we did actually raise some capital. We felt like actually more problems started with the capital than before. Right? And so we do think there are, based on the company and the idea and the growth model, there is definitely a scope to raise outside capital and be able to grow that faster, but we need to raise it for right reasons in a way.
What's interesting, based on that, there was actually, you were recently featured in Silicon India, right, as a success story, which is pretty awesome. And there was an article written about the sale of 4CS, and I'm going to read a little piece from the article. It says, what differentiates 4CS from its competitors was organic growth, pouring its profits back into the business and never needing to tap outside investors, growing from just one initial customer. In the agricultural machinery business in 1995, it virtually cornered the market on warranty management software in the vehicle manufacturing industry. So, I mean, that's a pretty big success story. I don't think there's a lot of people who could say that they did that from the beginning.
Again, thank you, and I think those are generous words. We did, I think, as I was mentioning, focusing on niche is important. I think part of, every startup needs to learn is you need to pick your specialization or niche, be able to lead and dominate that. I think that's the model we had. It's not only about the internet technology, which again, there were a lot of web startups, the knowledge that we had in a specific business area, warranty, which you don't think as exciting. But that's a good thing, because that gives you the niche, that gives you to be able to say there are not going to be a lot of competition that's coming after that. So we were able to, again, from the beginning, position ourselves as the leader. We hired people from some of our customers that had a lot of the business and the domain knowledge to be able to show that we are the thought leaders in that space. We are able to grow from that. Again, like as you look at the startups, you can grow it without capital.
Yes.
I mean, there are a lot of other success stories that have shown they can grow a lot bigger with the capital. But again, these are two different business models. You need to pick it based on again, the idea and how you want to grow it.
Yeah, I think sometimes you're in a situation where if the market starts to catch up, let's say you had a great idea, right? Market starts to catch up. Now you either have an option of going and taking capital and giving up equity in order to continue to escalate, right, and to really grow, or in the end you maybe get passed by. I mean, not just because you had a great idea, it's all about execution. It's not about the great idea.
I completely agree. I think, again, like the 99 1%, 1% is the idea, 99% is about the execution side of it. And I think that's very, very important for any startup, being able to validate the idea, execute to your plan, get the customers, get the right employees, and be profitable sooner or later. Again, for us, even though we were profitable, we kept investing into our product as well as growing the customer base. So it's not that we wanted to take the profits out of the company, but being able to have a gross margin from the existing contracts helped us to be able to grow that.
So in kind of transitioning, kind of going from 4CS, right, and you sold the company, how much time did you take off afterwards?
Actually, I didn't take that much time off. I was actually involved with the integration of 4CS with PTC about 6 to 9 months.
Right.
Then again, had the entrepreneurial itch again and said that if we look at, just like we were looking at mid-90s, as we all know, now the mobile technologies is being adopted, mobile and social, by the businesses. I know it has been adopted by the consumers for a long time. So again, we felt like there is another huge opportunity. There is a huge shift in what's happening. So it's time to start another business, take advantage of that trend.
So what did you, if there were some lessons that you learned right at 4CS that you've now put into practice at M-ize, is there something you could share along that line, some things you learned along the way that you changed when you started M-ize?
Definitely. I mean, any startup, there is always lessons learned almost every day. Right? And I think there are probably lots of lessons learned from the 4CS days. Definitely made a lot of mistakes, and we also learned a lot. I think from when we started M-ize, some of the key lessons are, again, some things that worked, some things that didn't work. As we talked about, being able to be customer-centric is very important. Having a niche and a focus, I think, is critical. Sometimes maybe we forget the lessons learned is because we had an exit, maybe there were more resources. I felt like sometimes maybe M-ize, I'm making a mistake of using those resources not to think like a startup.
Sure.
And I think, again, from 4CS days, another thing too is when you are positioning the company, like when we started 4CS, a lot of times companies were comparing us to large enterprise software companies. Like we were being compared to SAP, Oracle, or some of these enterprise software companies because of our niche, and some of the analysts did rank us later in that space. We are the leader. So when we get to M-ize, again, part of it is how do you position your company? So the customers you are talking to don't try to say you are this or you need to be compared to these larger companies, so they don't want to do business with you even though they don't have the solution. A lot of times they feel it's risky, or for them it sounds the same. So when I say customer engagement or mobile apps and all that, you are one of the many. So I think one of the lessons I think 4CS will learn later too is I think it's very, very important to be able to position, talk to the analysts, to be able to say how you are different. I'm not saying we are executing it perfectly, but I think that's definitely something we all need to learn, how to position as the unique company and unique value in a way.
That's really good. So what do you think the difference is? Like we see lots of like apps, you go buy an app in the App Store, things like that. There's a big difference, right, in building a company, a B2B enterprise software company, even though the consumer may be the end user of that product, right? I'm selling it in a business environment versus a B2C model. What do you think? Because both of your companies have been companies that were used by, the product is used by the consumer in the end, right? But it's really a B2B model and it's a big enterprise play. So how do you see those as being different?
Definitely. I think, again, that consumer business has a lot different than B2B side, especially as we talked about the B2B side. The sales value is a lot higher. There's a ticket sale, so there is a long sales cycle, and there is a lot of barriers to for the companies to believe in you and give you a chance to do it. On the consumer side, when it succeeds, it seems to pick up a lot faster. At the same time, it requires lots of resources before you could be successful. So even though we all talk about number of companies, including Facebook or
Sure.
Instagram or Google or any of these companies that went into the consumer side of the business, they had to spend hundreds of millions of dollars.
Sure.
Right? Facebook raised few $billion before they acquired this many consumers and be able to make money at it. So again, if you have a good idea that's spreading and there is a good customer traction, if you can find the investors, that's again a great model. It's a lot faster way to get to the $1 billion or a higher mark to do it. But on the B2B side, where there are a lot more opportunities for startups, too, especially when you're trying to do on the Bootstrap model, even though it's difficult, you will be able to build it over time. And also for us, when you go to the B2B, right now, again, the sales model is changing. Either it's the relationships or other thing is, as we talked about, the whole content marketing, which is very important, positioning yourself as unique. You can offer like a trusted advice to the companies. You are offering some value content. These are all important to position in the B2B market side to do it. And again, for us, actually in M-ize, we are a little bit more consumer side involved too. We have an app we developed for the consumers, but a lot of our money comes from the businesses. And our model there too is we wanted to have like a virtuous cycle, which is what all the startups are trying to build. Even though we start with the consumers to show what kind of experience we can create for them,
right?
We wanted to go with that to businesses and then say, this is what we can enable you. We wanted to get few customers, and again, within the last year, recently we succeeded in adding brands, generating revenue within the first year, and then as the brands sign up, again, we can have another cycle with the consumers to say, we are adding a lot more value from the brands, and then be able to build with each other. Okay? So, but I think having a revenue source from, I think, companies, having brands that are able to sponsor you, I think is a better business model, even for apps. I think on apps, one of the events we talked about it, we did some research. There are million plus apps, we all know that, or it's growing continuously. Average revenue these companies make is less than $5,000. Right? You are not going to start a business to make $5,000. Right? You go through all the pain and do that. So the way to make money again in the apps and differentiate it is you have other revenue sources. Sure. There are definitely some exceptions of the apps that you heard about, right? Instagram and other things, but that's are going to be the few. It's a great thing that if you have such an idea, you can get the traction, but definitely think about how you can get the revenue from the businesses, which will give you a lot better revenue than trying to compete with the million apps that are out there.
Yeah, it's interesting you point that out. There's actually a local company that I was doing some advisory work for, and they're building game platforms, right? And they've done really well, but they were trying to figure out how to bootstrap, and they said, we have this company in Japan that offered us money to build something that's completely outside our scope, but we could easily do it, and this is what they're going to pay. I said, well, of course you would take that work, right? Because it's going to give you cash flow to now go build the other business. And I think that's one of the things when you're talking about the enterprise play, right? If I get 1 or 2 customers, I don't need a lot of customers, then I can have my baseline from a cash flow perspective, and I can continue to build.
Absolutely. I think when you look at the startup, I'll repeat it again, you need to look at it as you are building the customers. After I became the TiE president, I was talking to Atlanta group. They have a chapter there. We wanted to see what they are doing, how we can learn and apply it in Tampa. And there also they talked about it is, oh, we only have a couple of VC firms here. There isn't that much capital. So the TiE focus there is, how do you help startups to acquire customers? It's not about teaching how do you get funding or other aspects of it. If they were saying that in Atlanta, I think in Tampa it's very much true, right? So the focus, I know a lot of times when we talk about it, there is a lot of focus on the funding side, which is very important. But being able to get the funding, either you are working on your own, putting some money into it, or have customers that may be related. You don't want to go completely outside the focus. Sure. Be able to use that for your funding, I think will help you to be able to establish in this area. Otherwise, we'll be complaining, oh, there is no funding in Tampa, we don't have VCs, we don't have angels and things like that. But focus your energy on the customers, and I think that's a good example of how to do it, even though it's a little bit outside of your area in a way.
I think that makes sense. As you know, you've done the enterprise software thing, so as you in building the product, right? So from kind of switching gears a little bit to the engineering side, right? In building the technology, how do you measure at M-ize, right? How are you measuring and making sure that development stays on track? Because the platform's continuing to evolve, right? I mean, you're adding on pieces as you go through. You're reinvesting in the company, and you're building the platform. How do you make sure that things stay on task? Because you've got a distributed development group too, right?
Yes. So again, product development is after the customer anyway. Your product and what you are providing is the key. And our challenge, because we took a little bit broader vision, even though we want to execute step by step, it's very important to be able to figure out what is the priority, what will get you the initial traction. So you can expand it, and that's the same part of our model is, as we get the customers, actually they are leading us to say what are the priority areas.
Sure.
Okay? And for us as a distribution too, we use agile methodology. That's again is a very important, I think I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that. That helps you again to be able to start with, I think you heard the term minimum viable product, right? MVP. Start with that, be able to iterate and build the product, and that's the model that we use. Okay? And I think that worked well, even though we do have a distributed global team. We have a team here that are like a lot of leads. We also have a development center in India where we have some of the back-end developers and the testers that are involved. And I think it's we use the agile. We have like a daily demos, the daily stand-ups, and those kind of process to say we all know where the progress is. And that if a customer asks for a demo, we are able to show at any time the latest version of our product demo. Okay? And also, I think I know we have here like a Paul and others, some of our employees from M-ize. I think I wanted to call out Paul too is we do, because the user experience is very important.
Yes.
Paul and others here creating a good prototype, and we use that as a communication tool both with the customers as well as the internal developers. Okay? And that has been very helpful. You can write a lot of things, you can tell them, but be able to see it as a prototype is very important for everyone that you are working with. Again, these are some of the practices. Agile methodology, let the customers lead you with some of the priority requirements, being able to have a visual way to share internally and externally. Those are, I think, again, some of the key practices I think that have been helping us.
So as you grow M-ize, right, moving forward, so you're in a mode now where you're actually growing the business, right? What is your biggest concern, right, for the success of the company?
Sure. Again, the biggest concern would be, as you say, is how do you continue to have a growing customer base? And the technology is changing. There is a lot of competition. Sure. Especially we have seen some of the other enterprise software companies recently announce some of the things we have been talking about. When we talk about customer experience is the key differentiator for companies, and being able to deliver better experiences on mobile for the enterprises is important. And there are other larger companies that come in. Sometimes that may make you, because you are a smaller company, could be lost. Or as we talked about when we talk to the companies, they may look at all these things to be at a higher level. When they look at it, they all look the same. So what we, again, main concern we always have is how do you continue to keep your differentiation? How do you communicate your message? And that as even other companies come in, be able to grow the company in a way. Okay.
Cool. So I'm going to switch gears with you a little bit. We're going to talk about TiE a little bit now. So I'm pretty psyched that you're the new president of TiE. Kunal did a great job of launching TiE here.
Absolutely.
You know, and I'd like you to talk a little bit more about what the change of direction is at TiE now.
Sure. I think first as a TiE, if some of you are familiar with that, the India's entrepreneurs, it's actually started in Silicon Valley, just like I think Startup Grind, it has now 60+ branches. When I came to Tampa and a year ago or so, and I was looking for what is the ecosystem here. Did work with Wave, TBTF and others, we felt like there is a need to an organization that can foster entrepreneurship, which is again as a broader goal. And also for when we looked at TiE, because I had a successful business, one of the things that attracted TiE is the key tenets of TiE is you need to give back, right? So we tell our charter members in TiE is it's not about what you get out of TiE, it's what you give to the TiE and contribute to the ecosystem, and that was important for me too on how we do it. So as we look at the TiE, and again Kunal and others have done a great job of building the organization. I think we had some good events. We had, I think, some angel investment in one company, got some attention to Tampa, those kind of things. But when I looked at being president, again, what I saw as the need is there are a lot of events. Again, there are great events like this, Joy and others are organizing it, where I think, again, TiE can help is bringing in some of the funding that's needed. Right? Even though we're talking about the customer funding, to give initial startup, you need angel funding, or at least to get you started. So that's one of the things. Even previously, I led the investment in Feather, even though it's outside of the Tampa area. We wanted to make it more formal, more structured, provide more opportunities to connect again the entrepreneurs to the angel investors. So that's one of the key areas. Other we also see is the benefit of TiE is it's again global organization. There are a lot of resources, there are a lot of successful entrepreneurs and business people that are in different chapters. Right. One of our key goals is how can we be the conduit to provide access to these global resources. A lot of times, again, if you don't know the people in, you heard this, in Silicon Valley and you are not there, they don't invest it. But we would like to be able to say, Tampa is a great area to invest. We are doing that as entrepreneurs. There are a lot of other successful companies here. How do we bring them? Again, in January, we have one of the very successful Silicon Valley entrepreneur, and he invested in 53 plus companies. Mm-hmm. He is coming in January to talk about it. We are trying to organize Angel Forum. Again, we want to focus on, as a president, sorry for a long answer, 2-3 key things. Right? How do we make a good impact locally? I think ecosystem is very, very important for all of us. Even though I said giving back, I think that helps all of us, right? Rising, you heard the saying anyway, rising tide rises all the companies. And I think there are a lot of people here. I mean, I can see, and again, I worked with Joy, I worked with Ken, Tony, a number of other people that have been putting a lot of efforts in building the ecosystem. And I'm glad you took time anyway in the evening to come here, right? And I think that's hopefully TiE is another piece into this whole ecosystem. And again, another key focus, and I will end with that, is we want to work with other ecosystem partners. I think there are very good organizations. There are more coming, and we want to make sure TiE is not trying to focus on its own versus Tampa as it's developing. We don't want resources to be scattered. We need to be able to figure out how do we focus on and help companies and make a big impact on growing the companies here. So those are the 2 or 3 things I think you hopefully we'll be able to successfully execute. Just like a business, I want to have very focused areas.
I mean, it's really good. I was actually at the event in Atlanta last week. I was in Atlanta, so I went to the event. It was a very good Atlanta. I was born and raised in Atlanta, so I moved here in 2000. So I was back up. I was working with Flashpoint and some of the other guys up in Atlanta last week. So I thought that event was really good. And actually, the first TiE event I ever went to was the one in Silicon Valley. My buddy TM Ravi is one of the people who was out there, one of the first group, and he's a venture capitalist now at Clearstone. And I do think it's a big deal. I mean, when you look around, one of the biggest challenges I think people have here, and like, you know, you've invested in companies, I've invested in some companies, is the network, right? I mean, the real value, and I think this is a key thing for TiE too, is, you know, the charter members are all successful entrepreneurs themselves. And it's not just about getting money, but it's actually about having those people to mentor you along the way. And it's not an incubator, an accelerator, or that sort of thing, but it's about being able to pick up the phone and ask someone a question that relates to your business, right? And to get real feedback. And the great news about it is, I think, if you look at the people who make those investments in the companies, they want to see you succeed for 2 reasons. One, they want to see the organization. I think TiE as an organization on a global basis has done great things. And so they obviously want to see that success continue, but there's a logical reason. So I mean, if Ashok puts money into, say, Feather, he obviously wants to get a return on the investment as well. So he's going to leverage his resources and give, you know, his input to make sure that that company actually succeeds. So I'm really excited to see, you know, kind of what you guys are doing here. So are there, maybe to ask a question that everybody else in the room is going to want to know, the next question, what type of companies are you looking for? And it's not necessarily anything, but just, if somebody wanted to come to TiE, right, a local startup, sort of what would you look for, just at a high level?
Yeah, again, we are looking for a good concept somewhat validated. Okay? And I know the different people, as you know, have different preferences. I think investment, it is true, you always, I think you will be more successful if you invest in something that you know you are familiar with, you can help with. Even when we looked at Aiden for the Feather, it being in mobile space was interesting to me because I'm in that area. And we felt like not only with the money, we can help them with certain things, because we may even connect them to other companies that are doing in that. So right now, I think when we talk to our charter members, there were 3 areas that came up as the, again, special interest areas. Definitely the technology, software technology, the mobile and the web and those technologies. Number 2 is more in the healthcare and the medical area, because there are again a lot of people here, and we happen to have a number of people in the medical area to be there. And then also recently there was seemed to be a lot more interest in even real estate related, whatever the opportunities are. But it doesn't mean other businesses don't have opportunities. Just want to say, because if you are talking to the people, they may again still try to go in the area they are familiar with.
Sure.
But I think it's more important is the good idea, validated, and a very good team that's committed to executing it and proving that you can execute to that idea. I think are the important criteria. Anyway.
So if you're starting over today, right, as an entrepreneur, right, the first venture, what would you do differently than you did the first time around?
I think, as I said, I was learning a lot when 4CS started. I was more developing and coding, didn't know more about the business side. I think we will definitely, you can put together a great team.
Sure.
Initially when I started, as I mentioned to you, maybe started by myself, and then we built over time. And I think if we have the luxury being able to start with a great team, having like some of the complementary skills. And previously, if I go back, I had the technology. It would have been great if I brought in great sales and marketing side of it. Even though I was selling it to the customers, and it would have helped on how we position it, maybe we would have grown faster, grown bigger. So again, I would say is we start with a team that has more complementary skills, is one of the things I would look at. Other 2 is, even when we started there or even with M-ize, this lesson is there, but the execution is tougher. Still being able to focus on something, be able to stay with that focus and validate it, I think still is very important. Initially, even when we started with 4CS, web was very exciting, but it's too big.
Sure.
Right? For us to even focus on warranty, it took some time to say warranty is the area we want to focus, because we asked the question is, if there are so many web companies out there, what is the unique value we bring? I wish like we started with that on the day 1, rather than 1 or 2 years down the road to do it. Again, I would start with a good team, complementary team. I would start with a more focused way to execute. You do need to have a bigger vision, but need to be able to from the beginning to say, these are the plan to execute to it. Okay? I mean, again, there are probably others, but those are a couple of things that come to mind.
No, it's good. It's good. Your profile on Silicon India says that Steve Jobs was your role model, right? No doubt that Steve Jobs was a brilliant person. But for you personally, why do you see him as a role model?
I think one that Steve Jobs has proven anyway, more from a technology or a vision perspective, as he has shown, obviously was very, very successful in coming up with a lot of great products to the marketplace, and he made a big impact. I think I have probably 10 Apple devices in the last few years at home, don't go anywhere without iPad and all that. So I think one thing that's about Steve too is, I think we all agree, is more than a successful business and the financial side, he was able to make a big impact on all of our lives. Right? What he invented, again, was very user friendly. Even though it was a high technology product, we all know as babies use iPads and iPhones to do it. Again, that's another thing that says is, you are creating products for these end users, being able to deliver the kind of experience, or I think, again, he was very sick about what kind of products they deliver. Those are the things we wish we could do it, right? We could make that kind of an impact, and that your products or something could be universally liked, Right? Those are some of the things that are very important. I think along with that, I might have said even Bill Gates was before Steve Jobs with the similar reasons, not only from a business side, and again now he's a great role model because he's taking that business success, applying it to how he gives back to the society. Amazing. And all that. So again, they had a great product. It made a big impact to do that. And so those are, I think, probably whether we reach it or they're not, those are all inspiring stories anyway for us.
So how much longer do you plan to do this? Are you going to retire on a beach somewhere? I mean, or are you always going to be an entrepreneur?
I think since my wife is not here, I can say it. I'm always I'm always going to be. I think going to be an entrepreneur. I enjoy it. I enjoy bringing some ideas to realization. Right. But as we go, and part of I think in the future, I may not be as actively involved. I do like to be able to help more companies come to realization than operating one company. I know we had 4CS, we have M-ize here. In the future, hopefully I will be able to help more companies not as actively involved in the operational side of it versus strategically vision side or whatever way, share some of the lessons learned and help them grow.
So that's actually a really good point. So you've done a lot of things. Right, and you've been,
few things. Yeah.
No, you've done a lot of things, and you've done building a business. If you think about 4CS, right, and I think you're planning to do the same thing with M-ize. You're going to have that same type of enterprise success over time. It's a lot of hard work, but it's very rewarding in the end. So you built one business, you successfully exited that business, built a great business. You built another one. You're now the president of TiE here. So if you looked at the business side, since your wife's not here, we want to ask about the family side, right?
That's okay, yeah.
And if you look at the business side, what accomplishment, looking back, are you the most proud of?
I think, again, being able to, we all have ideas, as we talked about, being able to bring that idea to realization. I think a lot of times, I felt happy too during the company also, when I visit customers, when you see people using your product, you feel like, okay, this is your creation, right? And if they give you a good feedback, they like it, you feel good about it.
Sure.
So I think I like that creation side of it. Again, a lot of us feel with that. Similarly, I think when company was successful, when we exited along with the family, we did feel good that that's a successful exit, right? And we started from almost nothing, right? Coming from a remote area in India to coming here, being able to build a company and grow it and be able to exit it. I think has been great. So, yeah. So those are the two things. Again, being able to take that idea, see it in reality, and again, same thing with the business. That idea became successful, and be able to see that there is a successful exit. Those are, I think, proud moments.
So, kind of in closing, I'm going to open up the questions in just a couple of minutes. If you had one piece of advice you could give to all the entrepreneurs who are starting out today, what would you say?
Start. Again, as you said, I think the most important thing, this is repeating, but at the same time, the most important thing is focus on the execution. Okay? Don't be as concerned about you don't have the funding, or you don't have the full idea, or even if it's a great idea. So a lot of times, I think with the startups too, with the Bootstrap is, go ahead and get started, right? And a lot of times there is a risk involved, but go ahead and if you have a good idea, don't hesitate, get started. And I think you learn along the way. You will be able to tweak it, build on it. So I think that's best advice for the people is go ahead and get started. If I could do it, coming from India, I think all of you can do it, and I know all of you are already doing it. So maybe that's the story there. Yeah.
Cool. So I'm going to open up the questions, because I think one of the most important parts of this is to allow people to ask questions. Sure.
What techniques did you use to get your second customer?
Sure. First said, we have one of the largest customers, right? I mean, we made sure the second customer, and everybody knew, let's say first customer was John Deere. John Deere was our customer. And also, like I said, we actually hired one of the managers from John Deere as our salesperson. And in the sales calls, we made him tell the story about, I worked with Ashok even before we started the company, and great to work with. These are the benefits we got. So again, being able to tell that customer story gets you the second customer, Definitely.
To gain access to that second person to pitch to.
That's correct. I mean, initially, as I said, I think if you haven't, there is the whole this adoption cycle. Jeffrey Moore wrote this Crossing the Chasm. When you are talking about the, let's say, the first 10 customers, only way for you to get the customers is not through cold calls or not through all of it. Use that first customer to be able to show the success. Have the customer talk about it more than you talk about it. And I think I think in the first my TiE event, I was saying your best salesperson in any company is a referenceable customer, right? They sell better than, I think, CEO or any other salesperson you can pay to get it.
Other questions?
So get the testimonials. Even if it's a consumer, get the testimonials. Even if it's not a big company, put them. Our website had them, customers talking about it. We will do that soon with M-ize as we have the customers. We want to be able to tell the success stories.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. 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 Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, I think that goes without saying. There has to be a need you need to fulfill. I think for us, what we said was the mobile is being adopted by consumers. That's easy to see. But we also saw was a lot of the mobile apps and the things that were happening were either entertainment oriented, games,
sure.
The social network type of things. There wasn't as much being done on how do you enable companies to connect these mobile and social consumers. And so that's one of the things we wanted to fulfill was just like it happened with the web, all the consumers are moving to this new medium and you cannot engage with those customers the same way you have done previously. It's not through advertising, it's not through other things. There is a better way of reaching and providing value to these mobile and social consumers, and that's what we wanted to provide. So we didn't want to develop another game or another entertainment type of app, but more the connection between the consumers and the businesses to do it. And then other thing we said as a need-wise too, one thing I always quote when we say about our company is, there was a study that is done that said $100+ billion is wasted in US alone. Maybe globally it's few $100 billion to say in trying to reach the customers in the way they want to avoid it. Like how many of us say, I want to watch the advertising? How many of you say, I want to receive the spam email? I want to receive a cold call? You don't do it. But there is billions of dollars being spent. So one of our approach was, can we take this $100 billion, apply towards some methods that customers want to do it? When you have a need, you want to reach out for the brand for certain things, allow the brands to be able to fulfill the need. That means you want to do it, you want to work with them. So hopefully our model is how do we change from this, the old marketing model that doesn't work, that's interruptive, that's actually doesn't add value to the customer, to how do we help the customer. So that's what we are trying to enable. That's the need. We thought even if, again, like anybody else, we want to take a good chunk of that 100 billion, be our revenue in a way. Sure.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
What's your philosophy on pre-revenue producing and employee compensation? How do you compensate this great team, for instance, ownership of your startup?
Sure. I think in a pre-revenue, if we're trying to put the team together, assuming there isn't as much funding also, at the time, it's definitely a lot of startups have done is be able to use the equity as the cash for that, and also sometimes use even like a part-time resources. If you have a team, again, if they want to be part of a great company, they might be willing to invest some additional time. So they're not dependent on your compensation to do it. So that's a good model. I think, again, using the example of Feather, when we did one of the things that was attractive compared to other companies too is they were students, a couple of them dropped out, they were willing to work on equity even after we put the money. One of the things we asked them is our money is not going towards compensation, maybe they are getting paid some stipend or something like that, it is to grow the company. So use the equity, use, even part-time, either it's they are a student or an employee, to be able to say that this has as the revenue grows, you will bring them full-time on board, but can you start with without having to bring them full-time and have to pay for that? Okay.
Any other questions? I'm going to pick on somebody then. Justin? Justin.
He's sleeping. You picked the right one, yeah.
I'm going to pick on you for just a second. So Justin sent me a note talking about the challenges of having a web company or a mobile company here, right? So kind of talk to that, because I mean, you know, you've lived in Chicago, right? I've worked in Silicon Valley and Boston, kind of all around. I think there are challenges here for sure, but I also think there are challenges there. They're a little bit different. So what would you say to somebody who thinks that maybe this isn't the right place?
I think I would first say is you are focusing on the wrong area for the business. Location matters, the ecosystem matters, but the thinking about the location is not as critical. Like I said, when I started my first business, it was in Moline. Even though it's a Chicago area, it's not the Chicago. It's a little bit away from that. We didn't have the technology people there. It's not a technology hub. It's on the, I mean, in a way, we built a software company, a web company on a farm, we can say that. Right? So when we come to Tampa, again, when I decided to move, Tampa, we saw a lot of advantages. So there is a great quality of living, right? And also the cost of living is lower compared to other bigger areas. And also if you go to areas like Silicon Valley, goes back again, you are one of 1,000. You think you can attract talent there, you have to compete with the Googles of the world, Facebooks of the world to do it. Right? And also in the today's world, if you really need some talent from there, they don't need to be here. Right? You can always utilize that. So a lot of times, I know location is important, but it's not the critical thing. You need to again think about is, what is the idea, who are the customers are going to be, and be able to do it. I do think Tampa, we did face some challenges in recruiting the initial talent. We use some firms and do that, but we do think we can find the right team. Also, we are leveraging some other team that we had in India. I know that you may not be able to do that, but still you can use the remote talent. I think that shows is wherever the remote talent is. So again, the advice for you is, if you go to Silicon Valley, first you are going to spend more. You think you can raise the funds, which is true. There are more VCs there, but also they invest in 1% of the companies that come through for them. So we, actually from outside, it looks great. If I go there, I can raise a few $100 million and start a business there, but it is not that easy to do it. So if we have an idea, I think you can build it anywhere, especially with today's technologies. You can build it here. And if you have family here that's willing to support, if there are other people that are willing to work with you closely, your team members, I think that's a better way to get started than feel like I need to go there to succeed. Right? I mean, I think it feels that way from outside, but location is not as critical as you think. Again, I think Tampa, what I have seen, actually, I need to say this too, from the last year since I've come, there are so many positive things that happened in Tampa. Right? I think there is a wave accelerator. There are 30+ companies that are there. And there are a lot more events like this. And I think I've seen, even with this Global Entrepreneurship Week, there are so many events, so many organizations. US have started an incubator. And there is, I think, good leaders like Mark Sharp and others. They are willing to invest. They are encouraging it. I think it's good to see that kind of leadership, again, to build the whole ecosystem. Not that that will make a difference. So I would say things actually are looking a lot better in Tampa if I compare to even just a year ago since I came here. So I think you are in right place. I want to believe I'm in right place. We can all build together better companies here, I think. Okay. Yeah, if you want to talk in more detail, we can talk about that. There are challenges. Everywhere there are different challenges. I'm not saying there won't be challenges, but it shouldn't stop you from having a startup here.
Awesome. All right. Well, hey, if there's not any more questions, please give a big round of applause to Ashok for taking the time to come here.
Thank you.
Great. Cool.
Thank you very much.